Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day. Hello, Mr. Andy. Welcome to UKNOT. This is like our third episode, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. UKNOT's a live call-in space. So you can unwind complex thoughts and emotions, find clarity in real time. And if you guys want to call in tonight and talk about what's going on for you, you can actually do so at that link. And let me put up the QR code. If you are watching on your computer, you can scan the QR code with your phone and it will bring you right into our line. So hang on a minute and let me get there we go. How was your week, Mr. Andy?
I thought it actually went rather well, considering. I always tried, since the show is titled Unknot, I always try to think, I ask myself the question at the end of the week, primarily on Friday, what had me tied up in knots this week? What was it? Was there anything that sort of complicated things, or was there something that put a roadblock in my way that I had to figure out? And I think this week, despite all the tangential and residual stuff that was out there, and you and I both follow the media rather closely. The blowback that was going on with the Bondi hearings and all that other stuff. And today, I think, and I haven't been able to find it yet, but I saw a couple of sites that basically said both Germany and France have unredacted versions of the Epstein files, and they have released it.
Really?
Yeah, but I have not been able to find it out there yet. But there are a couple of different places, different sources that have said. I haven't heard Parnas say it yet, or no one else that I sort of trust has confirmed it. But a couple of different places were saying that both Germany and France have unredacted versions of the Epstein files, and they have released it.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
I have not seen it. I literally have not seen it. So
and honestly, I have no need. I've got a pretty active imagination. I've read enough about Epstein over the course of the years and his transgressions is not the right word. There's probably, and I'm trying to be diplomatic and gentlemanly about it, about his perversions over the course of the years. Yeah, I don't need to read it. I don't need to see the pictures. We all acknowledge, and to use a legal term, we should just all stipulate to the fact that this guy was a pervert, and there were other people who he fed and was able to blackmail, and you and I have talked about this off the air, but you mentioned it a couple of times, sort of tangentially. There's more to this picture for Mr. Epstein than just the sex trafficking. He was linked on all kinds of different levels with other governments, maybe the Russians, maybe our friends in the Middle East that we can't say because we'd like to stay on the air, and uh, linkage not only with sex trafficking, but diplomatically, intelligence wise. So there's a web there that nobody in positions of power wants to reveal that if in fact the French and the Germans have released it, is going to be revealed, whether they like it or not. So
for sure. Yeah.
yeah. How was your week?
It was different. I think it was definitely good. But it was definitely different. Like the week I would say the week felt yeah, the week felt different. Lindy Stanfield, what's up, girl? Good to see you.
The word I keep using because I can't come up with a better word is it's just weird. And I
Yeah,
know you mentioned constantly that we're going into uncharted territory, so it's going to be weird, and it's going to be weird for a while because we're all encountering things that we have never had to deal with before.
yes, absolutely. I apologize. Not trying to be distracted. I am trying to get our chat window open from TikTok, and once again, it's a problem. Every time I try and come on here, I think I've got it, and then I don't. And so I'm having to do this differently. Oh, look, there's 6 of you in here. Hello, everybody. Sorry about that.
Rita's
Hey
there that I
Rita.
saw.
Yes, Rita's there. I don't know why it just does not. Um
Well, it's week 3, and we're doing this live, which is the
I wish
beauty.
it would just integrated into my studio. I
Yeah.
look great. Thanks, Lindy. I'm actually growing my hair back. I know you're going through it too right now. So I completely understand.
Benjamin, that fantastic photographer that took all your shots that are on your website, he's back.
Yeah. Oh, I'm trying to adjust my color, my screen color too. All right, that's a little better. My white balance is kind of jacked up, you guys. I'm trying to get it straight. There we go. Love you too, Mr. Benjamin. All right, you guys, question for you. For those of you who were here last week and we were talking about you're living your best life. I'm so happy. How's your cancer, Miss Lindy? For those of you who are like, who is she talking to? I'm on Facebook and YouTube right now. Lindy is an old juicing pal, and she's having to go through cancer as well. And I'm on the other side of it, so I'm super happy about that. But I know the struggle. You guys hear okay? I guess I should have my microphone closer to my face. I don't know if you can.
I think you're loud and clear, actually.
Oh, okay. Then I'll
And
put
we
it
don't
back
and
down.
we don't need to have the microphone blocking your face
Why not?
because we want to see your face. It's a beautiful face.
Gosh. All right. I living like I don't have cancer. Lived a pretty healthy life. You can't throw everybody in the same bowl with all their treatments. No, for sure. There's hundreds of different cancer treatments. Stage 4 and thriving. I believe I'm in remission. I am so happy for you. I hope so. I hope so. All right. So those of you who were here with us before when we were talking last, I guess it was last week.
Last Saturday night.
Yeah, last Saturday night, and we were talking about low set points and how to raise that. I've been teaching very deeply in Charm Life about that. Andy's in Charm Life, so yeah, they gave me 4 to 7 back. Oh, gotcha. That is so awesome, Lindy. You'll make it. I know you will. I always thought of cancer as a huge bump in the road. It was a speed bump, and it stopped me in my tracks. But um, coming back and rebuilding now in a big way. I mean, I have been rebuilding, but I'm actually making some pivots right now. So, yeah. Anyhow, those of you who are watching, hello, say hello, please. Let us know that you're here because I don't want to just jump in and we start this conversation and y'all are left behind or you're like, what is she talking about? And then we got to back up.
Well, we've got 10 folks already on Facebook, so
I know, I see that. Ashley, what's up? You mean on TikTok, not Facebook?
yeah, I'm sorry, TikTok. Yeah. Too many too many alphabets.
There's a lot of alphabets. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, anywho, let me just put this out there to you guys. UKNOT is your show. This is your time with me. But I also like to teach. And while I'm teaching deeply in Charm to Life about right now, because that is where we're at in our group, we had some people that were bumping up low set points, right? And we talked about that last week. So I was going to continue on with that because even this week, when we went to move into part 2 of Deeper Dive in Charm Life, we actually ended up, I had to coach everybody because there's a lot of things that came up in the week. So I don't want to dive into expanding it farther into part 2 for you guys if you have your own stuff going on. And like I said, if you guys want to call in and you want to get coaching with me, you can. The link on the bottom of the screen, that's studio.restream.io/EUO hyphen JVSU hyphen XZF. And I know it's long, which means you can take a screenshot of the the little thing at the top of the screen. What's it called?
QR code. QR code.
And you can jump into the dashboard with us and we can have a conversation. Because I'm broadcasting on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok all at the same time, the beauty of technology, we've got to keep it into the dashboard. But there's a lot happening right now. There's a lot of shifts. The thing, for those of you who've been following, my updates on what's going on energetically, big shifts. The 17th is on its way. I have seen the 20th be a date that keeps repeating as well, and that is the big kind of world axis point in astrology that is happening on the 20th, and for this upcoming weeks, I think going to be pretty transformational on many levels. Things feel much lighter than they have. They feel like we're not just walking through quicksand and mud, which is nice. It's nice to have that shift. But let's ask Andy, the world access point. It's not a creation point. Angelica in TikTok is saying the creation point. It's not a creation point. It's called, because it's 0 degrees Aries, Saturn and Neptune are conjoined, meaning they're in the same sign. They are right next to each other. And we have not had this in our lifetime for thousands of years. This is a huge astrological placement. They call it the world axis point, right? Axis, not access, axis point. And it changes the game. But first, we have an eclipse on the 17th. That is the start of the Chinese New Year. The energy does shift. There's placements on that day with that eclipse. Saturn's involved in that. There's a lot of changing energies. And I can share with you guys some of the things that for the last few days or last week that I've really been pushing into. And from a almost, I don't want to say unconscious, but I wasn't putting the pieces together of why I was doing what I was doing on the days I was doing it until yesterday. And it's interesting how that happens. But now I'm paying attention. So, yeah. What do you want to add, Mr. Andy?
No, I was just going to say that in reference to us maybe doing a deeper dive on Thursday because we were all, I don't want to say we were stuck, but I think we were all really working on the very first week
The
and the information
exercise.
that you gave us. Yeah. And we were maybe
Yeah,
we
I
were
gave
all,
you guys a 6-page downloadable PDF
yes, which
with,
I actually am still working through. So yeah, the PDF was 6 pages. So it was rather, not complicated, but it was rather intense. So, and I think that's testament to us in Charm Life that we were earnestly working at it, and you saw fit to slow us down a little bit so we could focus in on it. Which, you know, I'll say in other courses that I've taken, a lot of courses just keep going, and you have to either catch
because this
up.
isn't a course. This is a
Yeah,
container.
yeah,
This is
and
like it's a growth container. That's the
right.
way I view it.
And we're a community, and when you detect the fact that we need to slow down a little bit, like we did on Thursday, it helps us all. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say. That the fact that we're going, it's like an independent study course, like you always say. And, we're all independently studying and trying to figure out how to be better people. And sometimes we go faster, and sometimes we slow down because we're working on it a little more intently with more intention.
Well,
And
when you're
doing that.
processing things, especially when you're processing old stuff that has kept you in survival mode and made you do things that you weren't aware of doing, and it was keeping you kind of capped way below your capacity and even your desire, you got to take the time to process. It's kind of
Right.
like anything, right? Anytime we have to be more reflective or we're processing grief, we have to slow down. Like the people that think that they can just kind of throw stuff out there, and these cliche one liners, which me, you like cliches, I hate cliches. Like I think that it becomes, when it's just cliche, it becomes more marketing speak or motivational, not insightful, and
Yeah.
definitely not applicable and practical for everybody's unique position in
I, I
life.
will I will stipulate to that because I think people use what I call and I don't call them cliches as much. They're crutches for a lot of people, and I think that's the way you see it because people hide behind them, whereas I use them to remind myself and remind people that because in the media, with I am, repetition is the mother of skill. So if you can grab a phrase that to you is cliche-ish, but it helpfully reminds people that they need to do this, as long as it's helpful. But when it becomes a crutch, like you think, then I agree with you that when they hide behind it or they use it as an excuse or they just say it and never follow through, then it
I think
becomes,
it keeps it surface. I mean,
yeah.
that's the one thing I think why I'm not a cliche person, and y'all in the chat can tell me how you feel about it because I'm curious. Like, I think it keeps it surface, and the work I do is not at all surface. It goes to the depths.
And this is where you and I have a lot of deep conversations because this whole money issue and when is, the idea of enough, a great example is I'm actually making more money now than I ever made previously. But am I happier now? Is it enough now compared to the way it was before? I mean, these are all
But
questions that
enough
are
isn't just money, is it?
right. No, but that's part of the mosaic, right? That's part of my
Yeah,
puzzle. And money's never been the driving force for me.
yeah,
That's something that's off on the side that I've always been able to figure out how to get what I need while I was doing what I wanted to do. So the
absolutely.
whole idea of how to raise the bar is fascinating to me because I've done the Mr. Magoo most of my life and been able to accomplish what I wanted to do. And I know I can't look back, but I sometimes think, okay, maybe if I had taken the Mr. Magoo glasses off and focused with a little better intention, I might have been further along.
Okay, stop right there because we got to explain that. But first, I want to say hello, Harmageddon, whose comment is cliches exist without motion and are often weaponized by oppressors. I'm not going to argue with that. And I think that, that's why I asked, what do you guys think? Because we each have our own thing. Because I've been helping people for so long and I've been involved in personal development and self help and psychology and all those things, um, I get really annoyed when I see people's whole shtick and platform be a bunch of cliches that then it becomes like a whole belief system that you have to build your life around, and it doesn't have flexibility, or it's not dynamic and able to shift and change the way we need to, especially right now on the planet. Okay, so back. How many of you guys know what Mr. Magoo is in here? I had to explain this in Charm Life because we've got some younger ones in there. Andy and I are we're Gen
I,
X,
I'm probably
so
I'm
we
probably the
know
oldest
Mr.
person in the
Magoo in
room.
the cartoon. Do you guys in the chat know Mr. Magoo? Do you guys know what Mr. Magoo is? It's a loving term that I use for some people, and Andy uses for himself, and I'm not going to argue with him on it because it's the perfect sort of uh, image for what a lot of people do that are even not a Mr. Could be a Mrs. Magoo. So I'm curious, those of you on TikTok and Facebook and YouTube, y'all are here. Do you know what Mr. Magoo is? Are you old enough to know that reference in that cartoon? Some people in there are like, Mr. Magoo? What? What is that? This super cute cartoon, y'all. Ashley's like, I do. You had to look it up. Hold on. Let's see if I can put up
Yeah, you can look it up. It's on
Mr.
the cartoon, or it used to be on the
It
Cartoon
was
Network. I
such a
don't know if
cool, yeah. It was such a cool cartoon. Um, it was they did a Disney movie about it?
yeah,
No.
long time ago.
Did they really? See how lost I am? Hold on. I'm trying to pull the
I don't
image
think it
up.
did well. I
It,
think it was one of the last things Jim Backus actually did.
I'm not going to pull up the image. There's too many other things on the screen with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know they did a movie.
But people will.
Wow. It
It's
was a
one of those.
cartoon though. When we were young, it was actually a cartoon. And the guy, Mr. Magoo, he was so much in default mode and unconscious. Like he would get himself in pickles all the time. He'd be walking along the edge of a cliff and not paying attention, kind of like a lot of people do with their cell phones in hand right now. But like he was always on the edge of some major death or collapse, and he was so unaware, just unaware, because he was in that default mode. So when I say, or you hear Andy say, I was in Mr. Magoo mode, that's what we're talking about. Default mode, just completely tuned out, and you're totally unaware of your surroundings, your environment, and what is really happening.
And somehow you miraculously come out the other end better. And that was always the premise on the show with Mr. Magoo. All these other things were swirling around him, and if he could actually see what was happening, he'd probably be scared. But he just sort of walk through it, and at the very end of the show, he always miraculously was okay.
Yeah. Okay, but fully aware, could have done better, living it at full capacity. I don't think so. That was
Right.
the thing that always frustrated me about that even as a kid. I was like, why? Why? What is wrong with this guy? And as I got older, that image stuck. And I think oblivious, full on oblivious. Yeah. But I mean, look, y'all, a lot of us, and I can say this is true for me because I had a ton of early success and achievement in my life, right? Long before I woke up. But my life was like this series of accomplishments, producing, and then trauma and drama and restarting. And then, here we go again and we build again. And then something else happens and pulls the rug out from underneath me. How many of you guys can relate to that? Because I know I'm not the only one. And I did not go to college, and yet I quit corporate as the director of business development before 30 years old. Like at 28, I hit business development director, and I had not a day in college, but I was scrappy, I was resourceful. And this is what we talked about last week. When you identify as scrappy and resourceful and you can get it done and everybody relies on you, and you think you got life by the cojones, but in reality, that put the load all on me all the time. And then when things fell out, I'm also the one that had to rebuild. And it became exhausting to the point where I couldn't function anymore. And I didn't want to keep contracting the way that I did, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And my Mr. Magoo-ness, goes back to 24, 25 years old, and you know being the youngest program director in my format, back in the infancy of talk radio, and not even paying attention to that because I was just busy being myself and going on my merry way while the rest of the business was swirling around me trying to figure out who I was and what I was doing and why was I doing it. I was just going on my merry way doing what I was doing.
Well,
And
but see, beyond business and career, even though that's kind of how, as Americans in the capitalist society that we live in, we gauged success, there were other areas of life that were falling apart, I'm sure, or that went through the I wasn't paying attention and I thought everything was fine for you as well. I know for me it was, right?
yeah, yeah, I
Never,
mean,
hold on. Harm's saying never had early success, although I never felt like a failure. I always felt invisibly successful. Yeah. I mean, everybody has their own level. I was bound and determined at a very young age, and was trained as an Asian in an Asian family. Y'all that are Asian know what I'm talking about here. Like, you are programmed that you have to be number one. Number two is unacceptable and is almost punishable because, damn you, we've got to be at the very top because, and this is something that is so relevant today in the climate of this administration, Asians always were told, you've got to do better, you've got to do more. There's always a proving factor. Prove that you're okay, prove that you're smart, prove that you're useful, prove. Now you throw the woman gender on top of that,
Hmm.
and you have a whole other thing going. But then after I got divorced and had to raise a child on my own and had to go through other traumas, then it was, now you're a single mom. So see, what I'm trying to tell you guys is like, no matter where we are in life, it has to be dynamic. We have to be dynamic. But if we're in Mr. Magoo'ville and we're unaware, we plow through things and we just keep hitting new walls, new walls, new walls. We don't ever hit this place where we feel like we're in control. I needed to get my life under control because I used to say I can't keep living like this. I can't keep doing it like this. This is killing me. Like I used to say that.
And the other part to the Mr. Magoo-ness, which you and I have talked about in reference to me, is a lot of my Mr. Magoo-ness was I just didn't pay attention to the influence that I had, or I don't want to say I negated it. I just never acknowledged it. And it wasn't until Maylee's passing when other people began to recontact me and, sort of um, remind me of how I had influenced them through the course of our interactions with them, that I began to acknowledge the fact that, yeah, because you and I battled for the very first for a while when you first started coaching me, because I denied the fact that I was an influence for anyone.
Everybody
And
has influence. Everybody does. I don't care who you are, unless you're staying at home and you're not talking to anybody and you're not commenting on any posts and like everybody has some level of influence. You all have
yeah,
a circle of influence, and for a lot of people they don't want to admit it because that denotes a little more responsibility.
a lot more
Um
responsibility.
yeah,
But the part of being the influencer is that I think one actually has more influence on people you don't realize you
yeah.
are influencing, as opposed to the people you are actively trying to influence. That's the lesson that I learned, is the people that were talking to me, that came back in and reminded me about episodes and how that I had impacted them. eh, There was never intention there on my part. So the
Right.
idea that you can influence people without even realizing it, to me, that's the X factor, because you never know who's watching you whenever you're doing what you're doing,
Yeah.
and how something you say or something you do may leave a mark with them that you just don't realize.
Armageddon is saying is was always told to be number one as well, but I soon felt like competing with others was limiting me. Competition with others, unless you're in some sort of a sport where you're getting scored and that's part of the game, I think um, is traumatizing and dehumanizing on all levels. And it's not, you can't compare yourself or compete with other people
Uh,
without there being a winner and a loser. And honestly, I don't think there needs to be in life winners and losers. I think there should be win always.
yeah,
When I even work with leaders, that's always where we try to go. When I work with parents, when I work in couples, always where we try to go. A win, a win for me,
that's
a win for you, a win for us. Like
that's the big That's the biggest challenge generationally. If you look at what's going on, doesn't matter whether we're talking about politics, life, relationships, business, is the old school is, in order for me to win, you
you
have
have
to
to lose.
lose.
That's capitalism too.
Yeah, but the world that we now live in with younger folks is, we all want everyone to win. If somebody suffers, we all suffer. And the older folks don't get that.
Well,
Some
I think
do.
that's the paradigm that we're shifting into as
Right.
well.
Yeah.
And I think it's needed on every level. You know, the one thing though with this conversation we've been having on raising your set point and allowing yourself to have more, not just enough. That's that thing of taking the whole sort of capitalist patriarchy limiting paradigm that we're in that is not supportive of life for everyone. It's very separating. trying to use my words carefully. Um, and it literally does not provide for life affirming for everyone and everything. And that's the thing I think, people ask me all the time, we're going through all these shifts and you talk about them on that level. What does that mean? Well, on a practical level, it really does mean we have to get into a different way of thinking. This isn't me against you. This isn't left against right. This is top against bottom, or it's live or die at this point, because we are at a really precarious point in life on this planet if we don't shift and change things. But how do we shift and change things? We do it by changing us one at a time, and then we do it collectively and within community to move it forward in a very different way. And that's the one thing that I think um, is a little more difficult, especially post COVID, post lockdowns, because the lockdown actually separated people more and more, right? You're shaking your head.
No, it did. Well, I was in one of those unique situations, because we've talked about it. I was a media person, so I was one of the few people that could move around freely, and I actually had documentation in my car if we ever were in a lockdown situation and I ever got stopped by the authorities. I had the proper documentation from law enforcement that allowed me to move around freely. But it separated us, but the connectivity also still sort of existed. And I think we all sort of discovered my relationship with Maylee got stronger, um, because it was just,
But from community. If
yes,
you weren't
community.
directly
Exactly.
living with other people in your
Yep.
house, it did separate us. It from community, our community went from in person to online,
Yep.
which was a whole other dynamic. That is where people are actually craving change as well, and now here we are with this other sort of wave and phase of more separation and not connectivity in person. Tell me in the chat, do you guys miss having your community, your friends, your connection in person versus online? And I'm not saying being online's bad. I mean, we're online right now, and I'm very grateful that we can have these conversations like this and have this platform. But I don't think it replaces real conversation, real connection, and spending time in person, because as human beings, we need that physical
We need the
exchange.
contact.
Yeah.
We need the
Well, the
contact.
energetic contact too. I hate text. I hate text. Andy knows this. Like, I'm not a texter, maybe because I'm Gen X, but I do not like text. Too much can be misconstrued. It becomes very flat and one
Well,
dimensional.
yeah, the reason that you don't like text is the same reason I don't like text. We're both very sarcastic, humorous individuals, and none of that comes across in text.
I'm not
Because I
sarcastic.
many a
I'm a
many a
sarcastic queen.
you're a sarcastic queen. You've got the logo and everything. And I was, in high school known as a smartass. And my mom used to stop me dead in my tracks when I got out of hand by just uttering two words. She would just say, "Okay, professor," and that meant I was getting out of hand, and it was time for me to stop being a smartass.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, texting doesn't allow you to do that.
Well,
And
I think it beyond that. Like, I don't know that that's why I don't like texting. I don't like texting because I like depth. I
right,
don't like y'all, like, I like depth on all levels in all arenas. I don't like surface level, and I think text is great if you have something you have to just touch base on, but it does not imply connection.
yes, and the other part
Or
with texting,
Armageddon saying the people I've met online don't really know me and all of my subtleties. And that's the other, I think that's the other thing, when you are making connection um in a more intimate group or an intimate setting. Like, I don't mind Zoom. Because I feel like we're in the same room. We're having real conversations, right? At least in my Zoom rooms. In my Zoom rooms, we are intimate and we're having conversations, and it goes both ways. But it still doesn't. It still does not replace the need for human connection and community. And if you look, and I know this is true for me, and I'm going to speak for myself. I'm sure Andy can speak for himself, and I'm curious about you guys. How connected are you to your neighbors?
Who?
Yeah, see? Do you know their names? Do you know their ages? Do you know what they do?
I
If
know what
there
they
was
do.
if there was an emergency or there was the need for something, could you ring up your neighbor? Do you even have their phone number and say, "Oh my god, this is going on. Could you come over?" How many of you have that level of connection with your neighbors?
Growing up, I did, and now they call it what? The phone tree or whatever it was called. Back
Yes.
then, where you would know your neighbors' numbers, and back in the day when you actually had to memorize numbers so you knew who to call, as opposed to
Yeah, we
today,
have
just
it easy. Now you just have it on speed dial, but, like,
yeah.
how many of y'all know your neighbors? And if you don't know your neighbors, who's your closest person in your community? How far away do they live?
Probably about 20 minutes away. My
That
one
is
of my
is that not
colleagues,
sad? Y'all,
yeah,
is that not sad to you? Because to me, that's sad. To me, yeah, that's not connection.
no,
Like I said,
no,
separation, and it's gotten worse. And I get people move around, people have moved away from where they grew up. We're very transient in the way that we live. We don't live in the same place that we grew up or went to school. Everything is more spread out. But that should not be a problem if in fact we trusted people, if
right,
in fact we made those actual connections. And with this shift that we are moving into, we actually need to form community more. We actually need to understand the strength in that. And when I talk about capacity and set points and expansion and all of these things that are growth oriented, communities right in there.
oop, you went
I don't know
away.
what happened.
Yeah, I know, you disappeared for a second,
It said my connection was lost. I don't know what happened.
but now you're found.
And now I'm found. That was very strange. Can you hear my air conditioner rumbling in the background?
No, you're fine.
I just had it worked on and it sounds like an airplane is taking off right
You
now.
cannot. Your mic is good. Noise reduction is very good. I cannot hear it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you're fine.
Milo's looking at it like an airplane's going to land any second.
It's disturbing Milo's rest.
My noise cancellation is actually good. All right. So, anyways, yeah, and I'm not going to harp on that, but but I do want that to be part of our conversation because so many of you have asked me, like, what can we do right now as the paradigms begins to shift, as we're being called to higher levels, and different ways of engaging in life and different ways of showing up. And that is what we are being called to. And if you guys want, I will share with you what went on this week for me as the energy just sort of is pulling me. Probably
Yeah.
because I consciously ask for that. Um, but
You know,
funny, it doesn't show up like it. People would think if they're in Mr. Magoo'ville, like, so you got these things done. There's a reason I got those things done because they align to the deeper things of what I've actually been purposely, intentionally creating in my life and shifting into and pivoting into. Like I said, if you guys want to know what that is, I will share with you what that is, but let me know in the comments because I don't want to just babble. Like, that's not what this show is about.
things sort of constantly, and once again, I always think I'm a little. My circumstances are a little unique because of the business that I'm in, And AI, in a lot of respects, is beginning to short circuit the whole process of connectivity and being able. I mean, you can look at something as simple as trying to get a job, and the fact that people that are out there are saying literally, I sent out hundreds of resumes and have not gotten even a rejection letter from anybody out there because of the way AI and keywords filter things down, that you are not even interacting with a human being, that it's a system now that is filtering you out. And when I think back to when I first got involved in my business, radio, and it was tough to get people to respond to a resume and an air check that I would send out. So I had to figure out a way to be unique and different. So I would do, I mean, now it sounds stupid, but one time I mailed a program director a shoe in a box. And I put in the box a letter that said, on a little note that says, what is it going to take to get my foot in the door? And you know what? He picked up the phone and called me.
Nice.
And something came of that. So there have got to be ways for us to be unique. I mean, and the biggest conversation I have with my corporate parents when I was doing corporate stuff is I wasn't interested, and this became a problem eventually with them and me. I wasn't interested in being the best at what I was doing. I wanted to be unique and different because the best eventually is no longer the best. But unique means you stand out in the field, and if I have something they want, they know where to go.
Gotcha.
And that's the way I've always approached things, as opposed to trying to be the best. I'm not interested in being the best. I'm interested in being me, so that if somebody's looking for something that I have to offer, they know to call Andy, not because of my numbers or what
I think
I have
I
in the
think
bank account.
it's slightly different for me. I don't know how we even got on this conversation, how this topic came about, being the
A
best at
sense of
what.
community and how to interact and connect with people, and how we're getting disconnected.
Yeah, and then we started to move into more of the talk about, what the world is requiring of us as we go into and toward this big shift, this paradigm shift, and all the things happening. And somehow we ended up way over there. I don't
Yeah,
know what happened. Um, yeah, not sure how we ended up over there.
I
Anywho,
think it. Yeah,
let's pull it back, shall
yeah.
we? Let's dial it back. Because I was heading somewhere with that, and it just kind of went way off kilter. And
We took a
yet that
detour.
other thing is still on my mind.
Yeah,
Like which means there's a reason for it. So um as we move towards the 17th, I told you guys a week or two ago. Well, even in hey Nikia, what's up on Facebook? Um, that February was going to be a pivot point. January, February, April, July. Those are the 4 key months of this year. And as we talk more and more about how the world is changing, I mean, you guys feel it, right? Even if I didn't ever show up on live stream, tell me, do you feel that there's some big things changing? And some of you may think they're changing for the worse. Some of you may see that they're changing or lining up to change for the better. You were speaking about online community versus in person. No, I know. I was talking literally about what the world is kind of pulling us towards right now, and versus what the world programs have set up, which is the opposite. It's a shadow, right? There's a reason that the government wants us online versus in person. We have power when we actually come together, right? In person. And I'm not saying not online, but absolutely when we come online, like if we all came together in a Zoom room, do you think it would be as powerful as the people that hit the streets in LA, Chicago, Minnesota? No, I don't. Hard times ahead. Funny, I caught the stream. Hey, Nikia. Hard times are, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sugarcoat it either. There are hard times ahead. But just because there's hard times doesn't mean that it has to pull you under. If we understand what is shifting right now, where the energy's pulling us, then we can make the necessary adjustments and be more dynamic with the changes and not get pulled under. What has been happening for a lot of people over the course of the last 13 months is that they got pulled into survival mode. They got separated. It wasn't about building a community again, coming back into union. It was really based around it's all up to you, keep your head down. A lot of people got scared. I know that things from the deconstruction stage that we are still in right now are not easy. I'd spoken about this way, way back when I was going through my cancer and I was sharing live online when I could what was happening. And Spirit told me at that time, part of me going through what I went through and sharing it live was because we were going to be going through it on the planet. Everybody, there was no escaping it. And as they took me through it, and I shared with you guys back then, if you watched me back then, not on TikTok obviously because I was only on Facebook and YouTube at that time, um, I shared about how I was fully in a deconstruction phase and that we would go through that. And during the deconstruction phase, if you compare it to what I went through with chemo and cancer, it's ugly. You get weak. You're fighting to stay alive. You do go into survival mode. There's no other choice, right? And you pull back. But beyond the deconstruction part, then comes a point of recalibration, then becomes the healing phase, right? And right now, like first healing and then recalibration. Right now, I'm in recalibration. I'm in that shift where the world is in deconstruction. You guys get that? Nikia is saying I'm in the deconstruction phase. For sure. If you can relate to that, that's an important point of recognition. Awareness is everything. And when you're conscious of where you're at right here, right now, it allows you to move through things. So we know on the planet right now, globally, not just in the US, although if you're in the US, you feel this to the bone, right? We are in a deconstruction phase. Systems are failing. Industries are disappearing. And I'm going to share something with you that one of my old clients shared later on in the show because I thought it was super inspirational, and I think it's worth sharing with y'all because it's a good message. But systems are collapsing from our government. There's distrust. We've got revelations coming left, right, and center. Um, Healthcare, that system is collapsing. The education system is collapsing. Literally everything around us that we've become accustomed to is falling apart. Yes or no? And they have to. It has to. We've known, at least I've known, and I've shared it with all of you for years. There would come a time when the systems would collapse. They'd have to. And it's no different than when you buy a house that's got so many problems. You got to disassemble it. You've got to deconstruct it, but you've got to take it down to its foundation. And it's a scary thing to do. Like I had to do that with my cancer, my body. Everything got stripped down to the very minimal foundation, and then you rebuild from there. But right now we're in the stripping down. We're in the deconstruction phase, which is also the revelation phase of what needs to change, what is broken. There's a lot that's broken. Individually, you've got your own stuff going on, right? Each one of you has your own stuff going on. Some of you I've talked to, and some of you have said, I hit this wall. You're talking about these set points and being too low, and I've hit this wall. I can't move past it. Every time I go above, it washes out, right? I've heard that on the level of health. I've heard it on the level of finances, on business growth, lots of different places. So all of you are in a different place. Not knowing where you're at, I can only speak to this very generally, but I can tell you what I've seen in themes running through my clients, through my friends, through my family. We are all being called to a higher place right now, a different place. We are being called, as everything falls apart, we are being called to shift our values upward, to shift our intentions upward, to shift our actions upward to a different level. We can't just keep walking like Mr. Magoo. It isn't going to work. And if you are walking in that place, then you're on social media constantly doom scrolling, or you're listening to the news, you're getting sucked into the programming, which is probably holding you even farther in place. And then you're going to get sideswiped and wonder what the hell when these new systems come on board, because you weren't even prepared for it to shift like that. Even though maybe you've heard me talk about it. What do you guys think about that? Does that make sense, Mr. Andy? Am I making sense?
Yes, you are totally. Yep.
Okay, just
And,
making sure.
as Nikia says, I mean, we're all in different places. You're in, the recalibrating phase. Some of us are still deconstructing, and some of us probably are deconstructing and don't even realize it because we are still in our Mr. Magoo phase and have to become self-aware so that we can begin the process.
But
So,
some people are in the just in a state of fright and
yeah,
frozen, and they're like, "Yeah, I don't want anything to change," and you're holding on to a crumbling building.
yeah.
If you're not paying attention to what's going on around you in the world,
But
right?
that's why it's important for the sense of community to come together, and if it has to begin with us doing it this way, then so be it. But yeah, eventually we all come together the same way they have in LA and Minneapolis and in St. Louis and all the different other places where you come together
And there's going to
as
be
the
a time
community.
when we are called to do that too, but
Yeah.
that's not necessarily what I'm talking about. Um, right now, I'm really talking about just the fact that community needs to be there. You need to at least start to build community because it is needed. And honestly, right now, as things deconstruct in this world, having support networks, because people have asked me, like, what can we do? Build your support networks, get connected. If all you can do is online, fine, do online, but connect in a community that is intimate and not surface. Because what is going to be required and what we're being called into right now is more intentional. Like I said, win, win, win. And it's from the standpoint of moving together, not individually. See, one of the things that, and I'd like to see how you guys process this one too. One of the things that I see as big has been a big obstacle for sustainability, for equality, for life affirming actions on this planet is, for a very long time, with the capitalists and kind of patriarchy, we've all been programmed into more individualistic thinking. Me, me, me. It is what allowed and made room for the authoritarianism drift. It is what allowed profit over people, because it was me, me, me. It's how the 1% operate and have no problem from that place of extraction. And we're moving out of that paradigm of extraction and moving into a paradigm of stewardship with ethics. You guys get that? That's the big shift. But that also means if that shifts away from individualism, me, me, my happy place, namaste, love and light, right? I'm most important. If we move away from that and into what I do affects everybody else, butterfly effect, What if one of us is hurting, all of us are hurting? That is universal truth, right? If we move there, now I have to think about, how am I living? How am I thinking? What are the actions I'm taking? How is it affecting the rest of the planet? Because gone are the days where we don't have the understanding that what I do affects everything and everybody at some level at some time. That makes sense, you guys? Yes, you still have to work on your individual things, but coming at life from a very intentional place, shifting and pivoting, recalibrating how you're living, how you're thinking, the actions you're taking right now as we move. If you can take that on purposefully, consciously, now as we continue to deconstruct, you will not feel like the sky is falling. And for a lot of people right now, they think the sky is falling. I've seen comments too many times, we're cooked. We're done. Like, no, we're not. I know it feels like that. I do. Causes a lot of guilt and shame. What part does, Nikia? What causes a lot of guilt and shame? Because whatever that is, girlfriend, we need to shift that one. And you are welcome to call in. Like, just copy that link and or scan that code and jump on with us. I'm happy to have a conversation with you. Because guilt and shame's like the lowest vibrations on the planet. Those are the biggest blocks that we can be walking with. I don't want anyone to be walking with guilt and shame. That's no fun. Were you trying to say something, Mr. Andy?
No, I'm
Oh,
I'm
I thought I heard you.
I was just waiting on Nakia to reply because I'm interested too, because once again, uh,
Mm.
that's at the very low end.
She's saying being stuck in cycles causes a lot of guilt and shame. Um, it can if you allow it to. But here's the thing, just the fact that you recognize that you've been stuck in cycles says that you're on the path to break the cycle. You have the awareness that you are cycling, you're going through, right? These cycles and you're ready to break out of it. That is right on the edge of and threshold of shift and change. A lot of people don't even see that. Look, when I first started working with Andy, when I first started coaching him, like he said, he was Mr. Magoo, happy as a clam. Like, no, life is really good. There's not really that much that, I think needs to change. We are how many years into this now? 3 years
3 years,
of
and
both
yeah,
group
I mean,
coaching. He's in Charm Life, he's in Hidden Wisdom, plus we do one-on-one.
I was, and I said this to Bernadette. I said I was, I'm good. I'm done. I think I came here to do what I was supposed to do, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
That's where we started.
And
That
where
was
are
my
you now?
cycle, and it wasn't guilt and shame. It was, to a certain extent, I thought I was content that I had served my mission.
Content was a
Uh,
word you used a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
that I was
Yeah.
that I had fulfilled. It wasn't an obligation because our relationship, Mailey and I's relationship, was uh, was good, but I felt that, yeah, I was content that I had done everything I needed to do. And um, when we started, that was the floor. That's where we started. And we're 3 years into it now, and I realize that there's more there, and that I still have a lot of gas in the tank. And now that I do it with intention, I'm also more aware of what I do and how I do it. So, but you have to be self-aware, and Bernadette made me aware of that, and that was my starting point. Going, yeah, I'm good. You know,
Yeah, Mr. Mugo got a pair of glasses that changed his perspective after he went through the loss, grief, and processing. Then we stepped it up, and then he began to grow. And now, I mean, he's constantly asking me, like, what else should I be reading? Like, he's really on a trajectory of growth.
Yeah,
Nakia thing, I've been stuck in content. A lot of people are in content. A lot of
yeah,
people, that's what we were talking about last week with enough. That is how having just enough, living in just enough, whether that's relationships, money, or just life experience, that is, in a lot of ways, a survival mode mechanism. I tried doing hard things and my cycles are still spinning. It's humiliating. So take the judgment off of that, um, for real. But here's one thing that I would say, Nakia, because this is not something that's new. I've heard this a lot of times. In fact, I used to think that way before I really broke through a lot of this stuff in my 20s. Um, that whole like, I've done a lot, I've achieved some things, but I'm still spinning in the same cycles. Like, what's wrong with me? It isn't that it's humiliating, it's that you haven't figured out the clear path forward that is structured enough to break you out of those learned patterns, because those are actual patterns that locked in, that kept you alive for a time. Unfortunately, they just kept in your life because you didn't even know you had them at one point. But once you become aware, that's when the real work begins. And it's not easy. Like, my charm life people can tell you, and Andy's in there, like I said, everyone's looks for, and I think because of the coaching industry and self help industry and the spiritual manifesting communities, there's a lot of people that, because of digital marketing from those industries and the medical industry, we've been taught there's a magic pill for freaking everything. Everybody wants instantaneous change and gratifications. And you know what? Social media, especially short form social media, where everything's a quick 30-second scroll, it feeds that dopamine hit and everyone thinks that it's supposed to be instantaneous. It's not. And if you believe that it is, then you will feel frustrated and you will give up, because it's not a magic pill. I mean, I've been doing this work on myself now for over 30 years, and I have not stopped because there's always more coming at us, and there's always another level, and there's always another deeper layer that needs to be peeled back, or another mask that has to be removed so that you can stand in your full capacity. And there is no guilt or shame or humiliation tied to that at all. At all. Like, for real.
What I've learned in working with Bernadette, or I should say, Bernadette's worked with me over the last 3 years. It's a lot of little things that you do consistently, day in and day out, that help you make the progress. And Nakia, you talked about the humiliation, or you feel like you're spinning your wheels. And there are many days that when I get to the end of the day and I try to think of what my day was like, and I think, you know what, I didn't do what I intended to do when I began the day. But then I say to myself, okay, I'm going to try again tomorrow. And that's what keeps me going. That I started my day with the intention that I was going to do this, this, and this. And I get to the end of the day, and maybe I didn't accomplish what I intended to do for whatever reason. But I say to myself, okay, I'm going to try again tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's what I've learned from one of the many things I've learned from Bernadette. You set yourself up that way with intention, and there are going to be things that get in the way through the course of the day, because we're all human. And then you get to the end of the day and you try to clear your mind before you go to sleep and set your stage for the next day. And you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to try again tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to share this story with you guys. You guys ready? Yeah, I read it to you. Hold on. Let me pull it back up, because I think this is really indicative of real life. And I think there's a lot of good lessons in this. And after that, I'll share with you guys kind of, I mean, it was a reminder for me on many levels, but this is a client that I had years ago that wrote this, and we're friends. And he posted this the other day, and I was like, man, I'm so happy for him, but at the same time, it speaks volumes. So here's what he said: 3 years ago, We went from feeling really good about the momentum we were building, having just moved to St. Pete after doubling our revenue over the previous year. And he owns a company, he and his wife, um, to watching in real time the tech sector, our target market, tank. Now, some of you guys that have been watching or are in the tech industry can probably really relate. But this is that thing of understanding we are in deconstruction. But he actually recalibrated, and that's why I want to share this, because it gives hope. Anywho, it said it took our businesses and all of our cash with it. It left us worse off than we were when we started in 2020. We were devastated. 3 years later, and we just invoiced more in the month of January than we did all last year. And we have enough activity in our pipeline to repeat that revenue again this month in February. I would love to hit the big M, meaning million, by year end. Fingers crossed. I'm thankful to have a wife that figuratively slept under a bridge with me over the last 3 years. Not one argument, not one finger pointing, just pulling closer, grinding harder. And then he went on to thank everybody for their support, for rooting for them. It says your generosity got us through some pretty dark times. Bootstrapping a company is one of the hardest things you can do. The stress is unreal. It can end marriages, friendships, mentally, emotionally, and physically drain a person. Most people quit. We didn't. Don't get me wrong. I know that bad shit can happen at any time, especially with the current state of things in this country. I learned a few things as we got bowled over and over again for 3 straight years. Celebrate your victories no matter how small they may seem. It rewires your perspective and mindset. Go where you know clients have money. We're focusing on equity-backed tech startups, primarily in San Francisco and New York City. Those companies are backed by some heavy hitters in the tech investment world. And he goes on to say where he is focusing. And I'm not going to share all of it, but understand they had to pivot because Doge pretty much tanked, and it looks like he edited this. Doge pretty much tanked their business, and they were either going to shut down or they were going to pivot, right? They pivoted, and they're now, because they pivoted, because they recalibrated, they were able to get things moving again. And like he said, the revenue of the company more in 1 month than it was in an entire 3 years. His other message was to be tenacious, because your breakthrough could come overnight or over several years, but it'll never come if you quit. Build your team as soon as you can afford it. Companies should always scale. And that's more him just talking to the entrepreneurial spirit. I shared this with one of my entrepreneur clients and friends yesterday because it was so timely with what's going on right now in the world. A lot of people's industries have been hit. We've watched it on the news. My own business was hit when I got cancer, when my body deconstructed, right? I had to go through pulling everything back purposely so that I could focus on healing. Now I'm in the stage of, okay, where am I going to go with this? And pick up, but even more so pivot or recalibrate from where I was and what I was building before I got sick. Because, see, when you get sick and you're coming back, but you're not fully where you were energetically, physically, mentally, and I don't have that same level of energy. It's starting to build again, but I'm very clear about the boundaries I'm placing in my life and my business. I'm not going to allow myself to get so worn down that it takes my health with it, because that is one of those low set points. So I've been in that pivot mode. I've been in that, okay, recalibrate road. Remember I told you this last week, I've been working on some things, and And on the surface, it looks like, oh, you're just taking care of business. No, it's all part of that intention and the vision that I put out and I've been working on with my Charm Life people. We each have our thing. I work right beside them. Yes, I teach and yes, I help them and I coach deeply with them, but I continue to do the work. And my focus has been really on, okay, it's time to get everything moving again with my business and rebuilding my health all at the same time. And to me, they go hand in hand because they both tanked when I got sick, right? So, oh, I know, Lindy. So this last week, for whatever reason, Monday came and I'm like, all right, it's time to clean up your books and get ready to do your taxes. Like that's number one. But I didn't just close out my books and do my taxes. I literally was like, some things need to change. I hate QuickBooks. My old accountant was like bound and determined to keep me on QuickBooks, and I've hated it since day one. I had QuickBooks Desktop, then I went to QuickBooks Online. It's a shit show. I hate it. And they're always raising the price. And I'm like, I don't even want to support this company. It doesn't feel good to me. I had to hire a new accountant. And for whatever reason, the one that I initially started to work with back in October had no appointments until after the deadline for taxes. And I'm like, taking that as a sign, because I always ask Spirit first thing in the morning, eyes to see, ears to hear, heart to understand, all you wish me to know, help me co-create a life of love, joy, and compassion for myself and others, right? That's the first prayer before I get out of bed. Then I set my intentions. One of my intentions lately has been to pivot, to recalibrate, to get everything moving in a safe, functional way that's fun and light and serves life, my life and others. Well, Monday came and they couldn't see me, so I had to find another accountant, and I did that. But at the same time, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to let someone tell me how I have to do things. I've been in business now for 26 years. This business, I've been an entrepreneur for 30, but I've been in this business for 26 years. I'm not going to let someone dictate it. And I got rid of QuickBooks, found a new accountant person, and I'm like, this is the new software I'm using, and oh my god, it's so much easier. But I had to spend 2 days cleaning out the old books, setting up the new books, learning new software, and reconciling 5 different accounts between my payment processors and my bank account and blah blah blah. I won't bore you with the details, but man, that was done. And I got right in to see them on Wednesday. She's like, you're going to like this a whole lot better. And we're going to make it super easy for you so that you can now rebuild your business and expand with ease. And you can scale it back without worrying and without making errors. And I'm like, interesting, because how did she know that that's what I've been working on? Bringing it back. Lillian, hey, what's up? But this is the thing about intention versus being a Magoo. I've been very intentional in my journal, in my prayers, in setting out my to-do list of what I am creating. And this is where it gets interesting, okay? That post showed up on my feed that I read to you yesterday after I'd finished all my accounting. And I had taken care of everything I needed to take care of. And I finally didn't have any clients yesterday. So I had the space. I read that and I went, that's exactly what I need to do. I need to pivot, right? It's time to shift things and go back to where I was working before I got sick. And then I tried to pull it together before I was ready, literally before I was ready. Who the heck is this person? Oh, and I messed it up. Like my brain wasn't fully there, and that's that thing of jumping the gun. So I'm revisiting everything now. But as I was redoing some things and building some things yesterday, making my pivot, getting very clear on what that is, what I'm going to allow in my business, how I want to show up in the world, show up in service, show up in my business. and whatnot. Spirit said something to me and said, look at the calendar. And I looked and I'm like, what am I looking for? And they're like, you've been talking about this eclipse on the 17th. And just about that time, one of my clients messaged me because I told her in Charm Life, if you want, we can work on some of these things together because I think they're in alignment. We're both in the same place. We can discuss it because we were out of time in Charm Life on Thursday night. And she's like, yeah. So she messaged me and Spirit said, look at the calendar. You know why all of this has lined up? You've cleaned your books up. You've made the changes structurally that you need to make so that you can actually create what you want to create. Eclipses are for what? Do you guys know? See if Andy remembers.
Hmm?
What are eclipses for?
For beginnings and ends.
Endings first.
Yep. Oh, yeah, endings. Yeah, for new beginnings to happen, things have to end.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So the 17th is an eclipse. Okay. It's an eclipse. It's also the Chinese New Year, but it's an eclipse. And it's an eclipse with Saturn in play. Saturn is about boundaries, Saturn is about lessons. And to me, okay, I've learned my lessons with that deconstruction. Yes, Rita, it's about change. So, all the things that I've been lining up this last week, and if you think in terms of Chinese New Year, even you're supposed to get everything cleaned up and finished off before the end of the last Chinese New Year so that when the new one starts, you're walking into it with ease. You're not cleaning, you're not throwing stuff away. That all happens before, and you leave that stuff behind. And the fact that an eclipse is happening on that very day, the energy is very potent to leave it behind. We're changing cycles. But I can tell you guys this from an astrological standpoint, all these planets are stacking up in Aries at the end of the month. We're in this big stellium of planets. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, right? What does that represent? New beginnings, but it's new beginnings with action and fire and all kinds of shifts and changes and whatnot. So before Tuesday, the cleanup work has to be done. The fact that I wasn't even conscious that I was doing that cleanup work and preparing for the very sort of foundational structural aspect of bringing in what I'm asking to bring in and leave behind the time of crisis and deconstruction and healing so that I can get into that recalibration phase. All that stuff, the accounting, which just seems mundane. You're like, oh, you just have to take. No, it's structural, foundational, and it's clearing that whole thing out of the way so that come January 17th, that eclipse can take that old energy, lessons learned out of there, just clean slate, move it forward. When you're intentional, you start to see that there's actual energies that are supporting you. And if you're taking action on the things that are coming up and you're making that room, because you've said it's time to shift the capacity upward, it's time to move everything into a different lane, you notice. And then the rest follows. Hold on, I want to read this comment. Lindy's saying, I went on a 5-year road trip in my Ford Transit van, tricked out into an RV by Sportsmobile by dog, and I enjoyed traveling the country, having a blast in 23. Got to Montana and found my friend in bad shape. She was 86, decided to stay with her and helped her heal from a broken leg, which turned into several more months, which then turned into a commitment just to stay and see her through the end of her life. She had no children, not much family that she even knew, parked my RV and decided to just take care of her 24/7. That was November 23. And by December 24, I discovered I had horrible parasite infection. So I worked on that for the last 2 years. Unbelievable story. And experience cleaned up my body. Haven't been feeling good for quite some time. So I knew there was something wrong. Then in August, I was diagnosed with stage 4 liver, bone, blood cancer. Thought to myself, I've been so healthy and trying to do all the right things. How could this be? Learn that parasite causes all of that as well. Yep, it does. Had to continue for Hibbit and did again October 31st, 25, when someone ran into my parked RV and totaled it. Oh no, there goes my road travel in the future. So I let go of that. Having cancer and having cancer and living with a life of illness, things just start a big deal. Accept your health. I continue to take care of my friend full time, taking care of myself. Had to create the same boundaries you're talking about in order to thrive. And after, I love that, Lindy. I mean, cancer's challenging, but you learn a lot. I actually had a session this afternoon, a quick one, because I missed she missed my schedule yesterday, so I told her I'd talk to her today. But one of my longtime clients, like she's been a client for probably 25 years, and she's just on the tail end of getting breast cancer treated. We had a session today, and we were talking about that very thing, like cancer's a bitch, but you'll learn a lot. You learn a lot and you change. Things change. Your thinking about life changes too. And in a lot of ways, a lot of people that haven't had cancer, they don't understand. There are certain things that you are now stuck with, but how you decide to live life from that point forward is what determines, do you have an excellent life, or do you just stay in the mode of being afraid you're going to get sick again? Totaled your vow. No, I got that, Lindy. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. So let me ask you guys this question. Knowing what I just said about the eclipse, about this whole deconstruction phase that we're in, knowing that this whole entire week coming up, starting Tuesday, is going to be the beginning of all of these big shifts that are moving us through. I mean, in the spiritual communities, they talk about, oh, when we enter the age of Aquarius, it's all good. Oh, it's all good because we have to go through the shit first. It doesn't just miraculously change overnight. It does not change overnight. So that being said, what has been creeping in your attention, your focus? What are you becoming aware of, or have you become aware of, that needs to shift and change, that you can actually jump and get the foundation cleared so that you're working on a clean foundation, moving into this new energy, and let the old shit eclipse out on the 17th. It's not the final eclipse of all time, but it's an important time. And that's why I'm asking. I did learn what's important for sure. It's not that I didn't know it either, but here's what's interesting about, like I said, Spirit told me when I went through that, because I ate healthy. I did all the right things. I knew I was sick and I was trying to treat it naturally for 2 years and it just did not work. Inevitably, it was going to end up where I was, and it was fine. But that walk and that battle is unique into itself. And I had always said, and this is interesting because one of the big things I had to accept is, and I know this and I teach this, sometimes our beliefs have to change. And one of my biggest beliefs was that I'd never do chemo and radiation until I was in the ER and they're like stage 4 lymphoma, and that tumor is freaking huge and it's shutting down your kidney. Guess what? I'm like, all right, I guess we're going to do it. I said I never would. And I probably wouldn't do it again. And I say probably because I'm not going to commit to, definitely not. But I can't see myself going through that again. Nor do I feel like I'm going to have to. But going through that level of life shifts underneath you overnight, everything about your security and how you've been living your life has now changed in the blink of an eye, is what a lot of people are experiencing right now. So when they told me you are going ahead of, and the way they described it was the deconstruction that everybody's going to go through in the upcoming years, but you're going to go through it first so that you're steady and stable through it and can help people get through it. Fine. Okay. At first I was a little pissed. I was like, that's kind of shitty. Why do I have to do that? Right? But we each have our path, and I'm not resentful, nor am I angry about it. But there were times when I was when I was pissy. Andy knows because he was on the phone with me at those times.
Yeah, and as you laid it out very nicely, we all learn different things, and when you don't have a point of reference like I didn't have at the time, because in my family we're relatively cancer free, so I went through this journey with you, and my tendency, which you know, because we talked about it, and you shut me down numerous times, is to be positive and to come back with bromides about things are going to be okay, and you taught me how to hold space for you and eventually toward the end just to sit there and listen. So we all learn different things from the same part of the journey, and that's what I learned and still learning in when it comes to how I deal with other people too, to hold space for them and just sometimes you just sit there and listen. That's
And
all they
don't
want
try
you
to
to do.
change how they feel. I
Yeah.
think it's one of the most important things that anybody can learn, um, especially at this time, is there is a an art of intentionally listening and holding space without needing to shift somebody into some positive mindset. Like, hold that space and let them feel what they feel, and don't need to have people become something they're not or feel something they don't, because that's your discomfort from where they're at. Like, the reason that we always feel like we have to kind of positive speak to people when they're going through something is because we're not comfortable with the energy and emotions that they're holding, and we're like not willing to really hold that space. But when you do that, you actually unconsciously invalidate, dismiss people, and you're not accepting where they're at. We have to learn how to meet people where they are and let them be where they are, and accept them and love them regardless, because each one of us arrive exactly where we're meant to arrive at exactly the right time. But that's uncomfortable for people sometimes.
Yeah, because instinctively you want to help and you want to make them feel better and you want to respond somehow. But yeah, and I'm still learning how to do that, and it's still a work in progress. But I learned that in the 2 years that we went through it together. That it's important just to be there and listen.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing, and through the years of doing this job, because I help people with their health, and I help people with their psychology, and I help people with their mindset, and I help people with their energy and their emotions, literally have had to learn throughout the years. And it has been a learning process. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect at it. I'd be lying to you guys if I said I was perfect at it. I have gotten better through the years because I've understood more and more what is needed, and what an honor it is for people to trust you at that level, that they're willing to share how they're feeling, where they're at, what they're struggling with. And if y'all have people in your lives that are doing, and I'm not talking about people that are stuck in victim mode, that's a whole other ball game. I'm talking about people that are like, this is what I'm doing and this is what I'm going through, and I'm willing to share the real and the raw with you. That's an honor. That is someone holding you in high regard. That is someone saying, I trust you with my vulnerabilities and my weaknesses. So hold it that way. Truly hold it that way. I'm not, and like I said, I'm not talking about if you have someone who's constantly negative Nelly and they just, that is their default, that is their default way of being. Like, that's a lot. And there has to be boundaries when it comes to, engaging with people like that, because that then can actually affect the way you process, the way you feel. But when someone's actually going through something, man, hold that space. And more people need to learn that. That
And
sharing, Nikia saying that sharing is sometimes scary. Absolutely. It is scary for people, you know?
It's scary.
I bit back at you know, you can call it the steroids or whatever you want. Normally, I'm a little more diplomatic about it, but when you're going through cancer and you're where I was, where I was ready to quit chemo. I was ready to quit treatment. Um, and the I was on high doses of steroids. So when I was on the other side of it, when I would go through the crash, the steroid crash, I would have these awful days. And those are the days, you know, Andy's trying to positive cheerlead me and I'm like, "Stop." I was biting at him. I'm like, "Do not. That is not helpful. And if that's where we're going, I'm not going to talk to you, and I'll talk to you when I'm feeling better, thinking better and being better." But if you can't hold that space, we're not doing this because I can handle it on my own and I will. But because he was asking me, "How you doing?" You know, and he meant that, I shared with him. And it was a moment of growth for him and for me, you know, because it was me too holding my ground and literally drawing a boundary and saying, you don't get to do that. Like, we're not doing
And
that.
and for me, it was a growth process just because you begin to realize, and when and Bernadette knows I'm an overthinker, I would a lot of time think, okay, am I really there for her, or am I doing this for me so I feel better after our conversation is done? And then when you realize that you're in that space really for her, it's a not easier, but it's easier to deal with the complications and sometimes the uncomfortableness because we're being honest with each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it made it easier over time, and it was a growth process that was, yeah, uncomfortable and sometimes painful because for me it was new territory and I was trying to be myself, but she didn't need that. She just needed me to be there to listen.
That's a thing of being in service, but that's that thing right now too. I think we all have to be aware of, you know, am I showing up for other people in my life right now, for me or for them? And if I'm showing up in service, I need to show up for them. What do they need? You know, and that's where deep listening is important. And then if you need someone to show up for you, and this is that other part of having more than enough, but from a different angle, learn how, because a lot of people in survival mode do not know how. And look, I grew up in an abusive environment, so this is always a continual. I have to watch this one. Know when to ask for what you need. Know when to accept help. You don't have to do it all on your own. And I think we open that with that kind of tonight. You know, the scrappy, resourceful, do it all on your own thing. That too is a survival mode mechanism. Yeah, you gain some pride stripes and courage stripes, but you're not allowing other people in. And that becomes isolating. That becomes draining and exhausting. And in the time we're in, we're meant to connect. Blowing smoke never helps anybody. I love this. It's not what you say, it's the way you say it to someone. Always a nicer way to tell someone what they don't want to hear. This is true. This is true. There's always, like, even when I'm working with people, I always find really clever ways to do what I call backdoor people. I've done it to Andy a number of times. I literally, where you can't come in the front door. People pay me to be honest with them and to help them, but I can sense when someone's resistance is there, or where I'm going to butt up against their ego or their programs or their belief systems. And I know I have to sneak it in through a back door. And yeah, there are ways to do it in a very nice way. And then they get it and they have the aha. You don't always have to come at people direct. I'm a very direct person, but there are times when I've got to get super clever about bringing something in a back door. How is it being on the receiving end like that though, when I've backdoored you?
Well, me?
Yes. I'm
um,
curious.
See, I mean, you're so good at it, I don't pick it up that way. and what you allow me to do is get to that point where I discover it myself. And I know as a manager and also as a coach when it comes to talk radio that I cannot force people to do something they don't want to do. So if there's something I want them to do, I've got to get them to the point where they decide the idea that I want to implant is their idea. And you've got that skill where you very gently, I always tell you, thank you for nudging me. That's what you do to me. You get me to the point where you know where you want to take me. And and I know what I need to do. But you very gently nudge me and get me to the point where I acknowledge it to where I know, okay, I
Sometimes
call it my
it's
moment of
not
clarity.
always a gentle nudge. We joke
Well,
about that.
no,
Sometimes it's not a gentle nudge. Sometimes whether I come in the front door or I back door you, typically it's not a gentle nudge. It's a, hey, big flashing light over here. Now here's the invitation. You're going to go that way. Or you're going to stay
right.
stuck.
And
You
some
know,
well, and those were much more prevalent early on when we were going back and forth about I'm not an influencer. I never have been one. I don't like that because I think influencers are negative people or all the influence is bad stuff. And we had that clash going on. And eventually, I came to the conclusion, you're right, that I do. And I've got to accept it, embrace it, and figure out what I want to do with
with it.
intention.
Yeah.
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 So, but yeah, you're by and large a nudger, and you do it very gently and diplomatically and with love, which is the most important aspect of that. Because you're right, there are people out there that pride themselves on being, blunt, and I'm going to give you the truth, and it's like,
I
you know,
usually ask when I have to do something like that direct. Don't I usually ask in coaching?
yeah,
I usually say, "Do you want the truth, or do you
yeah,
want to know what I see?" I
right,
usually will ask before I deliver, and if someone says no, which very rarely will someone say no, um, they may not agree, and there are times when
yeah.
someone's begging for change, but everything I say they're button up against. There's a lot
Let's
of,
see,
I don't want to say excuses. Literally, they fight for their limitations.
right,
People, and we do this, y'all. Tell me if you do this. You say you want to change something, and then you start to fight to keep things the same. It's happening in America right now. I'm watching it on every social media post that's talking about the things that are going on. We say we want things to be different and we want them to change, and yet we fight for our limitations. And it's like, do not fight for the limitations, allow them to be gone, and then we have to embrace the unknown, the uncertainty, and something new. And that's usually how I go about it, because I know it's the only way true change can happen. It's the only way that transformation can take
but,
hold.
but once again, I will make the point that stylistically, you've got a style of being able to pull it out of people that I think in other hands, like I'll use myself as an example because when I normally tell people, you ask, well, do you want me to be honest with you? I always tell people, don't ask me questions you don't want to know the answer to.
No, I'm more diplomatic about it.
Exactly. You're much more diplomatic. My style is don't ask me a question you don't want to know the answer to.
Yeah. Lindsay's saying
Whereas
permission.
because of your skill sets and your intuitive, talents and your psychic abilities, you know where I need to go. And you can help me get there, whereas I don't possess those skills. So I work about it differently.
It's experiential too. It's
Yeah.
just signaling. Lindy's saying, yes, permission and asking if the person wants to hear what you have to say is so important. I agree with that 100%. I believe you'll have more of an open communication with that person by asking first unsolicited feedback. Just doesn't work. Exactly. And Nikia is saying, agreed, fight with limitations. Yeah. No, I hear ya. I mean, this is the human journey.
Yeah.
It's fun. Someone in Charm Life asked the other day, and I thought this was such a great question. Um, because they experienced a loss without giving any more details than that. And I had recommended that she read The Afterlife of Billy Fingers. And so she's been reading it, and she's like, I have a question though, because I've been wondering this. Like, why do we come to Earth then? Like, was it how did she phrase it? Because you were in that class.
I'm trying to remember. I
With
don't
all
remember the
of the
words.
challenges and all of the obstacles that we have to go through in our lives, why would we want to come?
Why do we choose?
Why would we choose? Yeah.
Because they were talking about all the other challenges and things you had to do in the at the next level, and there was still a lot to learn. So why
Yeah.
did we come here?
And the one thing that I explained to her was how I view death. And I don't know if you guys know this about me. Maybe you do, because I've been a medium for a long time, my whole life. But like, I view death very differently. And it doesn't necessarily make me sad, although personal loss makes me sad. When my dog died, when Shasta died 20 years ago, my world fell apart because she represented a mother to me, the only mother that was ever a mother to me. She literally mothered me. So we were talking about that, and would I choose to never have another dog again just because I lost her and it devastated me so hard in that moment, and I had to learn how to live without her, you know. And we talked about how death is a doorway. And this is how I view death. Y'all don't have to agree. I'm going to tell you how I understand it, just from the work that I've done with those who've crossed over, and through my work. Death is a doorway. It's not an ending. It's hard on the people that remain. It's not hard on the ones that cross over. Like, they are free. That's what usually when someone crosses over, I am celebrating for them. Like, good on you. You get to go to paradise. You get to go where things are light and you're not sick anymore and you can move freely, and it's good, right? I was happy for Shasta because she had cancer before she died. And it was hard watching her go through the decline. And with people too, I have a lot of people on the other side. And it's like, I'm so happy for you because there's a different level of understanding, a new level of understanding. They don't have the mask of the ego that creates blinders and separation that allows us to live on this planet. Like, that's the difference. That mask lifts when you go. I've never, ever, ever heard somebody, unless they were rooted into this planet that's had a near death experience, say that it wasn't a really lovely experience. In fact, most of them said I didn't want to come back because it was that freeing. It was that full of love, right? I felt that release when my mom died, Nikki. I said, yeah. So, when we were talking about it, I was like, on the other side, though, it's all love, all peace, beyond what we can even comprehend or understand, because we are in third dimension, which is super dense. We came here to express our unique divine spark. We are each an individual expression of the divine. It is in us, it is around us, it is everything. But each one of us is a unique spark. I am the Bernadette spark of divine source. Andy is a unique spark of the divine source. Each one of you is a unique expression and spark of divine source. Originally, we all came from source, but we are a unique expression going through unique experiences. Heaven is kind of boring. And you can, I don't want to say boring, you don't have the challenges. Here on earth, we have everything from devastation to thinking we're in paradise at any given moment. Like, there's this huge spectrum of experience that we don't necessarily have on the other side, because here we have the veil of the ego. We have blinders. We don't get to see everything at one time the way that you do when you're on the other side. So why would we come here to go through these struggles? Why would we come at this time when the earth is experiencing this massive contraction and this massive paradigm shift? Because we have something to learn, we have something to give, we have something we want to express of the divine, and we have something we want to experience that we cannot do from the other side. You grow even more.
And that's part of that's part of my growth process too, because as I listen to, and I think I'm in chapter 18 or whatever it is of Seth Speaks, the idea, I used to think that by some quirk of fate, I'm here at this time in this place. And what Seth reinforced, which is what you said before, we have chosen to be here at
We did.
this time in this place because we have something to learn in our journey. And when you look at it from that way, as opposed to some quirk of fate, I'm here at this time in this place, it changes your perspective and how you decide what to do. It
I
does.
think so too. Ben saying, hearing this is such a relief. Now I know Moto Kitty is at peace. Moto Kitty's been at peace. You should never have worried about that. They inherited, they adopted our cat Moto, and then he got taken by a bird. So Moto was always overweight. They put him on a diet, and then he got taken. He was a very unique cat. But no, Moto had an amazing life. He started out a stray, and I ended up with him, and he was an amazing cat. But yeah, I Moto's in a good place. I have so many animals on the other side between horses and hamsters and dogs and cats, and no fear of death. Here it's a win-win as far as I'm concerned either way, right? Yeah. I was happy her chains were broke here, and and has ties here. She has 6 children. Ah, that's amazing. Yeah. It's funny how we look at it though. Like, and survival and trauma can make you only see the dark side of an issue or the challenge side of an issue. That's called catastrophizing, and a lot of people do it and they don't realize they're doing it. Um, but we had that conversation, and I thought, this is a lot of people right now are questioning, what the hell? Why am I here right now? And a lot of people are either in the midst of survival mode, they've been thrown into it because of everything that's happening, or they never got out of it. When everybody went into it during COVID, which they did, everything changed. Anytime you have um a situation that comes and pulls the rug out from underneath you of what creates security and safety and the known and the familiar, anytime that rug gets pulled, it will put you in survival mode. How long you stay there is entirely up to your tools and your understanding and your own psychology. But everybody went there. Everybody did. I mean, we were all of a sudden in lockdown and told all the time, like, people are dying left and right. Remember? And we stayed there for over a year. And then slowly we came out. But after that, the landscape had changed and the separation had occurred. And right now, this last 13 months, it's the same thing, only it wasn't caused by a lockdown, right? Nikia, he got skinny and got took. We lived in Colorado. There's a lot of big birds, lots of big birds. Anywho, so lots of things that we can move into and should be moving into from an acceptance place right now. Really from an acceptance place. I'm excited for what's coming this week. But what's coming is probably going to be a little challenging for some. None of us know what's coming on Friday, the 20th. None of us. And I'm not even going to I mean, my feeling is this. There's big shifts that are occurring in the midst of all of those big shifts that happened this week. If you look at what has been occurring for the last couple weeks, last month, I think it's going to go into a place where change has to happen, and it's demanded. So we'll see. I don't want to say more than that, cuz I actually am excited for it. I'm not afraid of it. When I first looked at that transit, it was like, "Oh shit." But now my feeling is no, cuz something already has shifted in people's energy. It's not as heavy as it was, especially through the month of January. January was a crazy month.
Or as you simply said the other day, there is more light happening.
There is more light happening, yeah. And I think we're more energetically slated right now for things to go in a better direction. That doesn't mean that we're done with deconstruction and system collapse. We're in collapse. From the standpoint of systems are collapsing, but those systems were not put in place to honor us, empower us, give us freedom, and allow us to be who we are at our full capacity. Those systems were there for control, and that's what's breaking right now, which I am very happy about. It's messy, it's a little scary, but those systems were put in play to control us. And the system itself does not like that it's breaking.
Mm-mm.
We're seeing that. So they're tweaking and trying different plays to scare and intimidate us. And the dark wants that. And that is what we have to stand up against.
Yep.
Yeah. So, anywho, all right, you guys, we've been on for almost an hour and a
Almost
half.
2 hours.
Is it
Almost 2
2
hours.
hours?
150.
Holy
Yeah.
cow.
It went
Oh,
by
look
really
at
quick.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It took us a little bit of time to get everybody sort of here and also to get on track and hit
Yeah.
the flow, which typically happens, and social media typically does not send out the notifications right away. People don't get their notifications. Was that helpful, you guys? Let us know in the comments. Again, things are pivoting right now. I'm pivoting and recalibrating my business right now. A knot is part of the activities I do, sort of community service based. It's a container, but it's also part of my business. So, I am redoing a lot of things right now to honor my own energy, how I'm showing up, and what I want to show up and offer. So it's important to me to know, does it help? Is this good for y'all?
I would say resoundingly yes. And
Good night, Mindy.
the coolest part of all this is the fact that um, we're all feeling the weirdness. So I don't know any other way to describe it. It's just the energy's weird, and as you said many a time, we're going into an area that we know nothing about, and we just have to be fill it with faith and hope that we're going to come through this okay, and we're feeling this together.
There's signposts there though,
Yeah,
right now. There are actual y'all like d- whether it's in your own personal life or if you really look for what are the signs, there's always going to be signs in nature that we're heading in the right direction. So look at this, just so I can kind of put it out there for y'all to understand why I say that. Um, think about January and even like the beginning, right at the beginning of this month. January, every single day, there was something new. It was exhausting. Like there was so much happening every single day. It was draining. It was exhausting. We couldn't think straight, right? We started the month into February, but at that time, what did we have from that January to February transition? We had Renee Good, we had Alex Petty. We had huge weather storms that blanketed from Texas to the East Coast, and then another storm behind that. In other parts of the world, there was massive flooding, there was earthquakes, there was a lot churning, right? Now, I'm not saying that everything has calmed down, but a lot has calmed down, right? I know for a fact that the weather is definitely a little more tame. For sure, there's things going on like with the release of the Epstein files, the things going on in Cuba, in Palestine, in all the other parts of the world, but it's calmer. So, that in and of itself is a sign that things are shifting.
I totally agree. And the message that I think that we're all beginning to hear and we're all beginning to use and take to heart is the message that Bad Bunny had in his halftime show. The only thing larger and greater than hate is love. And I think we're all beginning to realize that the peaceful protests that have been happening across the country, the crowds that have all turned out peacefully together, the communities that have come together to show how they're connected now, that's all come from love. And I think we're all beginning to understand that that is what is going to get us through
The
this.
Walk for Peace finished up too.
Yes.
They made it all the way to Washington, D.C. through all of the storms, through all of the cold, through one of the monks losing a leg and Aloka needing surgery, right? Like they completed the journey and are on their way home, or I think they got home today. Um, they
And I
completed it.
I meant to mention this to you yesterday when you were talking about the coverage. And as much coverage as I saw, until you asked about what's always the first thing they say every single day that had gotten by me until you mentioned it yesterday. The fact that they always say, let today be my peaceful day.
Yeah. That was the message they carried to everyone every time they spoke was, every morning write it down. And I shared it with Charm Life the other night. And I asked all of them, do you guys know what they say? Because what the head monk that always does the talking says, and he says, every morning write down, let today be my peaceful day. We have a similar practice in Charm Life. That's not the statement that we speak from, but I use that because some of you may or may not know ancient Buddhist psychology is far superior, and they knew thousands of years ago, before psychology was actually a thing, they knew what drove the unfocused mind, the anxious mind, and suffering. So the principles of Buddhist psychology, way back, older than modern psychology, but actually more complete because they were more holistic. Like that's why I've studied the way that they do things. And what I was telling the Charm Life people is this is why I have you guys right, because he clearly said, like the head monk says, get a sheet of paper. There is something very powerful, and I teach this in Charm Life about writing it down and speaking it out, but doing so from an intentional place. You are doing a physical action, your mind is engaged, your body is engaged, you're making an intentional decision that this is what I want, and not typing it, actually writing it, which is also why I say, like, the schools don't give a rip whether the kids write. And I actually think they're stealing away their intentionality, their creativity, because writing is a whole other set of energies that actually can help us. And if we don't take the time to write, we're not as intentional. Journaling is super powerful too, but yeah.
I've learned that through the last couple of years too. So yeah, I've come to it late, but it's very powerful and impactful.
Yeah. I can always tell when someone does journal and when someone does not journal. And even in our class, I can tell when someone's been journaling and when they have not, when they've done the work and when they have not. It's always evident just first by looking at them and how their physiology is, because it shows up on your expressions. It shows up in your breathing. Like I can grab what's going on with someone super fast on all levels. And y'all have no idea how easy it is when you train yourself to recognize these things, and when you work with enough people like I do, that I know the difference. When I first meet someone, not some, I have to learn how are they in different situations. But it's funny because from a, I guess you could say, psychic standpoint, there's a certain energy that someone carries when they're calm, when they're centered, and when they're intentional. And there's another energy when they're not. But then there's the pace of breath, the shallowness or depth of it. There's the way that someone's eyes are focused or not, right? And then the choice of words. Like, what words do they use when they're asking a question or talking about a story or an event that happened? It's putting all those things together and understanding, where are they right now? And where do they say they want to go? And that takes like full presence to recognize it. But I'll tell you guys what, I would love to have someone like a clone of me to be able to do that with me, because I don't have anyone like that. And I've tried to find them. I've spent tens of thousands of dollars trying to find someone who can show up like that for me. Because that would be the shortcut. To me, that's like a huge benefit, to have someone that can cut through my own bullshit. I wish. Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, I've spent tens of thousands of dollars trying to find someone who can do that.
I
Have
think
you
you're
found anyone else that's close? We've talked about that. You haven't either, right?
who, me?
Yeah.
I bet you.
Well, that's true. But before me,
Before you, I was Mr. Magoo. We've
that
had that conversation.
okay. You're right. You're right. I'm just curious. I'm
Yeah.
always curious. Like,
No, no, yeah. I had business mentors, but no, not to this degree, and not to this depth, and not to this, you know, expansiveness that, and because you met me. Well, yeah, you're right. I was in grief, but you met me to start this process. And now, 3 years later, I think you can honestly say I'm not a totally different person, but I'm much different than I was 3 years ago when you first met me.
I always say, like, part of the work I do with people removes the layers and the masks that keep them from being their most fully expressed, true version of
Yeah. And,
themselves
and,
at
and
high capacity. Like,
and you and I have had this conversation. I've always told you, I always thought I was a pretty self aware person and pretty, you know, okay. But no, nowhere near. And as we peel the layers off, and as we continue to peel the layers off, it's an interesting journey of self-discovery, and I'm excited by it, as opposed to being, you know, leery.
Michael
So
Keaton's movie Simplicity. What is Michael Keaton's movie Simplicity? I don't know if I've ever seen that movie. That's something, a comment Pat put in. I don't know what that movie is.
is that the one where he's multiple personalities
I
with
don't know.
Andy McDowell? I think I saw it once years ago.
I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
think I've ever
I'd
seen
have
that movie.
I'd have to go to IMDb. Yeah, he clones himself 6 times. I can't remember the details of that movie, but yeah.
I don't
Um,
want to clone myself. I don't. I don't.
I have a tough enough time just dealing with one of me, so the idea of cloning myself is not something that I would
I mean, I'm
ever
lucky I
entertain.
have spirit, right? But the thing is it's not as clear as having someone sit across from you. Spirit is able to get the message across to me, but it's not as easy as having someone sit across from you that's just like, hey, hey, A lot of times I'll say to them, like, I really just wish you would show up every morning before I wake up so that you just tell me what I need to know, you know, and then let me retain it enough that I can bring it into real life, and there, that's it. But
But
it's not that simple. I can
yeah,
get it that simple for other people, but never for myself. When it comes to me, I got to work hard at it.
well, but see, the other part to that is on our side, we are in our humble lives working hard at it too. You make
I
it
know.
simple, but what I'm saying is you make it simple for us, but it still is in
It's a
some way.
shortcut. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a shortcut to at least have someone call it out for you, and then it's
Yes.
up to you then to reflect on it, process it, accept it, take action on it differently. That's not easy, but I know that. I would just like the shortcut that
Yeah.
is me, for me, the way that I show up for other people. Cause my God, if that were the case, I'd probably be a billionaire by now with freaking, yeah, a whole staff doing stuff for me. So I didn't
And
have to
you'd
figure
and you'd
everything out.
have your setup and your estate put up and your center
So
where
I just show up and sit down. That's my
yeah,
dream. Is
your
just,
learning center and everything, yes.
yeah, just show up
Yeah,
and let other people take the wheel on stuff. That's my
still
dream.
possible, still possible.
But that's the thing too, and I love that about the new accountant lady is she's just like, this is literally because I showed her what I set up. She goes, "It's we're gonna get it clean and easy so that you can step back in and scale." And I was like, that's the word that I've been saying is I need to scale back up, and scale bigger than I did before because at this point, Spirit keeps saying the things you do is exactly what the world needs right now. And,
Yes, I would
it,
concur.
so there's a part of me that's like, but you're 59, you just had cancer. Maybe you can just take another time. But yeah, no.
We need you. Sorry.
I don't know if do you need me? I always question that. Do they need me?
Yes, we do. That's the simple answer right there. No debate. Yes,
I
that's the
guess.
simple answer. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, here I am. So we'll
Thank
see.
you.
We'll see how things shake out. But before the 17th, I got work. Head down tomorrow. I almost forgot, you guys, that we had a not tonight. Literally, like an hour before 6 o'clock. I hadn't taken a shower, still in my sweats because I've been on my computer all day since yesterday. And yesterday, I put in 12 hours working on all of this pivot stuff. And then today, I literally again for another 8 hours. And then now here I am. I was like, oh shit, Andy, I just remembered we have unknown. I guess better get in the shower. And he's like, oh, yeah. So I almost missed tonight because my nutty professor or whatever was just head down getting
Okay.
it done.
I think you did rather well. Thank you very much.
With what? Oh, showing up. I at least did
Yeah.
not
And
forget.
and the 2 hours that we've done, I think we've all learned a whole lot, and I'm always appreciative. I always walk away with
Ben
stuff
saying,
that
"We need you." Lillian
yep.
on Facebook is saying, "Yes,
Yep.
the world needs more Bernadette."
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Um, and hopefully the container expands. I promise you though, you guys, like once I get all of this stuff and we get beyond this week and probably into next week's show, it's going to be a lot more structured because that's actually what I'm setting up right now is a
Mhm.
complete shift in structure back to the way not even back to the way I used to do it, just a lot more structured. I'm trying to really manage my time and my energy with how I'm showing up, what I'm doing. I'm moving kind of more away from the truth teller stuff with the news because, as you guys have noticed, I've gotten real quiet about things that have gotten noisy, like the
Mhm.
Epstein files and the constant updates about what else is going. Like, I really don't want to be part of that noise at all. I don't want to add to that noise. I actually want to be a different kind of light. Um, Not saying that there aren't going to be times when there's patterns that I recognize. I will share those if you're in my community. But from a standpoint of like the main content that I make, I'm going back to having more structure so that um it's not so erratic, because I'm actually opening my schedule in the next week to start taking on new clients again. So yeah, pivot time as we step into the Chinese New Year. So I hope you guys are okay with all of that. It's going to be a little bit of a shift for me, because for the last, well, since I got cancer, I've just been showing up at the capacity that I can, and really just with live streams and stuff. Until and not, we really have I haven't really been all that structured, trying to be more conscious of how I'm showing up. But you're going to see some pivots and some changes, and I'm going to take on more structured sort of topics and things that I'm being directed to speak to and speak from. Of course, when things unravel in the world, I will speak to it from where I can speak to it, but I'm definitely not going to play in the noise. That's why I've been quiet on social media. It is way too nosy. Noisy and nosy. Nosy is one of the things too. I was telling Handy, like, sometimes I think social media is just one gossip town is what it feels like,
Can be, yeah.
you know? So, and I've enjoyed my time this week using it sparingly.
You're not missing anything, I'll tell you that
It
much.
frees up a lot of capacity to think and feel. It really does. Hint, hint, y'all. Like stepping away and not letting it, not letting myself stay connected that
Yeah.
much to it. It really does allow for more capacity.
And the word which you use a lot, which I think is perfect when it comes to deciding how much time and where you want to spend it, is discernment. Because, and I always use this example when we talk about Instagram. Um, when I worked at another radio station, I was required to be on Instagram because I had to post stuff daily on behalf of the company I worked for. As soon as I left that employ, which was 5 years ago, I never went back to my account. Have never used it. I don't even know the password anymore. When you start to decide where you want to go and how you want to use your time, that really is good for your psyche.
Yeah. I like depth. I just do. So, and Instagram's never been my place. I
Yeah.
post over there, but it's not been my place.
It's a cesspool.
It is, and I wish that there was a TikTok sort of replacement, but I don't know that we're going to get one, because none of the platforms right now are up to
Snuff.
par.
No, you're right. You're right.
Mm-mm.
But
Pat
maybe
said
that's what we
I'm
need. Maybe
pissed.
that's what we need too. Maybe we need a break from all this stuff.
It's funny because my dad asked me today. He said, "What do we do if the internet goes down and cell phones go down?" I was like, "Well, that's where CB or ham radio, radio waves are still going to broadcast." As long as there's power to those towers. And usually they keep those towers up because emergency services need to have it and the military uses it. And he was like, "So we have to get one of those." I was like, "We could, but at this point, I don't know, is it necessary?
They
Maybe."
have those
I
walkie-talkie
have
things.
one of those hand crank radio
Yeah,
things. Um, so to just to know, I guess, what's going on. I've thought about getting one of those ham radio things. Like back in the day, Pat said, yeah. I mean, because nobody really has home phones anymore.
landlines.
Yeah, nobody has landlines anymore. We dug ours up when we were doing the work to put my office in. We dug ours up, which was already halfway dug up. They buried it like 3 inches down in the dirt and it kept coming up. So we just dug up and cut it.
for some reason, my sister in Hawaii at the house that we grew up in still has, I think she does that out of her homage to my parents. She still has the landline on the wall with the phone that we all used when we were kids growing up.
It took me
Yeah.
a while. When I moved here, I didn't have like when I was in Seattle, I think I had a land did we have a landline? I think we did. I think we or I had some sort of voice over IP. Um, because I was still using my cordless phone and my headset when I was taking calls. But when we moved here, I was like, no, I'm just going with cell phone from here on out. Yeah. Isn't that funny?
I am old enough to remember when there was only one phone in the house and you had to fight to use the phone or tell somebody to get off the phone because I'm expecting a phone call from somebody else. Just
See, and most of my clients I'm on Zoom with. Occasionally we'll do phone sessions if they don't have um like if they're traveling or they're not in their office, then we will do telephone, which is fine. I don't really care, but I like the video because I can pick up a lot more, and I like in person because I can pick up a lot more with what's going on with people. But yeah, anyhow. All right, you guys, I will see you next week. I do not know if I'm going to have time this week. I probably Oh, wait, we have hidden wisdom coaching on Wednesday. Um
and Tuesday is Kungi Fa Choi. It's Happy New
yeah.
Year.
Yeah, I may come on Tuesday. I might come on Tuesday. And we'll see where that energy goes with that eclipse. Um,
It'll
I'll
be
see
an
if I can
interesting
come on
week.
Tuesday. Yeah, it'll probably be later though, like a little bit later than my normal time, which my normal time is like 5 p.m. Pacific. So it's probably going to be a little bit later. But I'm going to play it by ear because I have a lot on my plate this week. So yeah. Anywho, you guys have a good night. Get ready. And do
Yes.
not get your cleaning done the day before the 17th. Don't do it on the Chinese New Year. You may
And yeah, the other thing too, you're also not allowed to wash your hair.
on yeah, yeah. Like take a shower
Yep.
Monday night. And I'll drop you guys this. Like I've actually been doing more take a shower at night, wash my hair at night, which from a Chinese medicine standpoint, from an Asian understanding of things, it's healthier to do it in the evening, not during the day before your body has had a time to adjust. It actually messes with your metabolism and the damp and heat within your body. I don't know if
It
you guys
shocks
knew
it
that.
shocks you in the morning. You should not be showering in the morning first thing.
Yeah, because most Asians, and if you watch K dramas or C dramas, you see they take a shower and wash their hair at night. And then if they have to fix their hair, they'll just quickly spray it with something or whatever and do what they got to do in the morning to it to go to work. But you go to bed clean with dry hair. You do not wait and do it first thing in the morning. And so I've been making that adjustment. I'm used to getting in the shower in the morning with the hot shower. And I've been for the last several weeks shifting into do it at night. So when you say don't wash your, yeah, I gotcha. I can do it the day before and skip on Tuesday, you know. Yeah. What is it? Something flying in what?
Pat says he's flying on
Oh, you're flying on Tuesday? Cool. That'll be interesting.
yeah, it'll be okay.
I mean, I never say like stop whatever just because energies are happening. I'm excited for this one. If you're into the cultural stuff, you wear red. You
Although I saw somebody that practices traditional Chinese medicine that actually said because it is a fire horse
Oh,
New
that
Year,
yeah.
you may want to wear green to sort of dampen the power of red because normally you do wear red to celebrate the new year, but they were suggesting you may want to wear green, which will help bring it down a little bit. Green or beige was what they suggested. I thought, oh, that's interesting.
I'm a fire horse too, so I
Yes,
probably
you are.
Should
So
bring it down a notch.
yeah,
Kind of light my hair on fire on freaking Tuesday.
it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to it. It's actually kind of cool, but
Yeah.
yeah. All right, you guys have a good night. We will talk to you.